Did you know that Okpara, the first son in Igbo traditional society, holds sacred and central position?
Shoulders masquerade inside.
You're welcome back to Igbo Tradition My Heritage. And today's topic, I will be talking about Okpara. Okpara or Okpala, as we, the Imo people, will call it. Okpara. Okpara is the first son, the first male child born in a family. That is Okpara or Okpara or Okpala. It depends on dialects. Okpara is not just a status. Okpara is more than a status. In Igbo tradition, Okpara is seen as a link between the family and the ancestors. Okpara has a lot of responsibilities in a family. When a father is no more, an Okpara takes over. But you see, because of our people don't know our traditions anymore, that's why you see in families dragging, you see some families dragging inheritance and all that, going to court, all because they lack the knowledge of tradition. An Okpara is a custodian of Ofo once the demise of the father. Who takes over Ofo in a family is the Okpara. And what is Ofo? Ofo is a staff of authority, justice and fairness. An Okpara is a custodian of Ofo in a family. That's why in Igbo tradition, when it comes to the sharing of inheritance, an Okpara inherits the Obi of his father, the compound, and he gets a larger portion of ancestral land because of the weight of responsibilities an Okpara shoulders. An Okpara is expected after the demise of the father to be like a surrogate father in the family. An Okpara is to make sure there is peace, unity in a family. An Okpara should make sure that the customs of the family is being carried out. That's why in Igbo tradition, an Okpara is the one that is in charge of the Obi of the father's house, is the Okpara that conducts sacrifices on behalf of the family, is the Okpara that pours libation. When a meeting is summoned, is the Okpara that presides over the meeting. with the offer, because it is seen that anything after deliberations and whatever agreement has been reached and the Okpara hits the offer on the ground, it is seen as the ancestors being witnesses to what has been agreed on. That's why it is said that an Okpara is seen as a link between the family and the ancestors. And an Okpara is supposed to make sure, I say it again, there is that the legacy of the family remains and continues. Like I said, that's why an Okpara inherits the Obi and the larger parts of the ancestral land because of the responsibilities he showed us. An Okpara is not expected to maltreat his siblings. Rather, he's expected to take care of them and the mother. Like Ofo is a staff of authority of justice and fairness, and Ofo is seen as a two-edged sword. So when an Okpara want to use the Ofo to suppress his other siblings, the family, now the Umunna will come in. You know why? The father, the late father, was part of Umunna. The other brothers, they are part of Umunna. Umunna will come in to intervene. The mother, Inyomidi, will come in because the mother being part of Inyomudi. Omada will come in, the sisters being Omada and Umuoputu. You see, so these institutions will come in to intervene if there is any internal conflicts amongst siblings, or the Okpara. When the Okpara cannot handle, the one the Okpara cannot handle, these ones will come in. But when the Okpara himself will start misbehaving, that's when all these institutions will now come in to intervene and make sure that there is peace in the family, justice and fairness. An Okpara, I would say, is like a priest of a family. Okpara is like a priest of a family, and that is why I'm not saying that other children, they are not useful or not. No. That's not what I'm trying to say now in what I'm about to say. That's why every parent, you really have to make sure your first son is well brought up and understands the traditions of your people, because when the father is no more, is the first son that is expected to take over. And in Igbo society, or should I say in Igbo traditional society, and an Okpara is seen as an eye through which the world sees the family. If you understand what that means. So an Okpara is expected to uphold the traditions of his family and make sure that the family stands. Okpara, I repeat again, is like a priest for Those of you that go to church, that you have priests, you see how you hold your priest to high esteem and all that. When you have issues, you go to them, you listen to them. That's how an Okpara is in a family, according to Igbo tradition. Okpara is like a priest. But it's quite unfortunate that our traditions, people don't really, some or most of us now don't even understand our traditions. You see chaos in families and all that. Even some operas don't even know who they are. They don't know their roles and all that. Some parents don't even know the roles that their opera is supposed to play. And opera doesn't even know who he is. But in Igbo tradition, after the father's demise, Okpara takes over, carries the legacy of the family. Because legacy of the family, traditions of the family is from one generation to another. That's why Okpara inherits the Obi. Like my grandfather was the Okpara, and he held the Ofo, and the Obi, the Omona meetings were held in the Obi, where my grandfather was the head of Omona. In my next video, I will be discussing about Omona. We understand who this Omona is. And Okpara is the one, the Okpara, the first son in a kindred, is the one that held the position, the head that heads the Omona, first son in a kindred. The same, the first son in a family, after the father health, becomes the head of the family. So if you've not learned anything here, just see it that an Okpara is a priest of the family after the demise of the father. Okpara is not just a status, but it holds responsibilities, weighty responsibilities, to make sure legacy of a family continues, make sure that the family is protected, the family remains in unity. That is what is expected of an Okpara. And this is who the first son is in Igbo traditional society, called as Okpara. I will be stopping here to see you in my next video, where I will be discussing about Omona and other interesting topics in Igbo traditions, our customs and laws. Omenani Igbo. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do well to subscribe so that you will not miss out.
Under the cola tree, our stories unfold.